Techno music is a genre of electronic dance music that originated in the city of Detroit, Michigan in the United States in the early 1980s. It was developed by a group of young African-American musicians who were inspired by the futuristic ideas of science fiction and the electronic sounds of European bands like Kraftwerk. The early techno tracks were characterized by their fast, pulsing beats, synthesized melodies, and repetitive rhythms, and they often featured futuristic or dystopian themes. The pioneers of techno were Juan Atkins, Kevin Saunderson, and Derrick May, who are often referred to as the Belleville Three, after the suburb of Detroit where they grew up. Atkins was the first to experiment with electronic music, using synthesizers and drum machines to create tracks like Cosmic Cars and No UFOs under the name Cybertron in the late 1970s. Saunderson and May were both influenced by Atkins' work and began producing their own tracks in the early 1980s. In 1981, Atkins and Richard 3070 Davis founded the record label Metroplex, which would go on to release some of the most influential techno tracks of the early 1980s. One of the first techno tracks to gain widespread recognition was Clear by Cybertron, which was released in 1983 and featured a stripped-down, futuristic sound that would become a hallmark of the genre. Other important early techno artists included Eddie Fowles, who released the track Goodbye Kiss in 1986, and Blake Baxter, who produced the classic track When We Used to Play in 1987. By the late 1980s, techno was becoming popular in clubs and raves around the world, and the first techno festival, the Detroit Electronic Music Festival, was held in 1989. Throughout the 1990s, techno continued to evolve, with different subgenres emerging. One of the most influential subgenres was acid techno, which was characterized by its use of the Roland TB-303 synthesizer to create squelchy, psychedelic sounds. Important acid techno artists included Future, who released the classic track Acid Tracks in 1987, and Hardfloor, who produced the track Experience in 1992. Another important subgenre was ambient techno, which was characterized by its atmospheric, ethereal soundscapes. Important ambient techno artists included The Orb, who released the album Adventures Beyond the Ultra World in 1991, and Aphex Twin, who released the album Selected Ambient Works 85 to 92 in 1992. Minimal techno also emerged in the 1990s, with artists like Robert Hood, Jeff Mills, and Richie Hawtin producing stripped-down, repetitive tracks that emphasized the power of the rhythm. Hawtin, who is also known by his stage name Plastic Man, became one of the most successful techno artists of the 1990s, producing classic tracks like Spastic and Plasticity and co-founding the influential record label Plus 8. In the 2000s, techno continued to be popular in clubs and raves, but it also started to influence other genres of music, such as pop and hip-hop. Artists like Daft Punk, The Chemical Brothers, and Moby began incorporating techno sounds into their music, and techno festivals like Detroit's Movement and Europe's Awakenings became major events on the electronic music calendar. Today, techno remains a vital and influential genre of electronic music, with new artists and subgenres continuing to emerge. Despite its roots in Detroit, techno has become a global phenomenon, with thriving scenes in cities like Berlin, Amsterdam, and Tokyo, and continues to inspire new generations of